What y'all listening to?
Limelight Highlight Podcast.
And welcome back to the show. It's the Limelight Highlight Podcast. I am your host, Jay Rose, and this is your silver lining space to take a break from the stressful everyday. Take a load off and get ready for some positive news. I know a lot's been going on lately, but Christmas is this week, so I'd like to dedicate this episode to some good Christmas news. But not only Christmas, Yule, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, whatever it is you guys celebrate in your home or town or with friends, whatever it is, the holiday season is upon us. It's this week. So I hope everybody had a great weekend and everyone has a great upcoming holiday. Before we get into the Christmas news, here are some updates. The Block Gives Back had their end of the year John that turned out successful as ever. There were a ton of donations and over 250 canvas custom tote bags, along with some warm meals that were distributed and given out to those who need them. As far as updates, I don't really have too many, but I do want to give a shout out to the Block Gives Back, and I want to thank them for everything they do for the community. And I want to thank all of the lovely people out there who participated or gave in donations. You know, not only is it the holiday season, but it's winter and it's cold, especially on the East Coast. So everything that was provided is going to the people who are really going to rely on these things to stay warm and make it through the winter. So rest easy and be happy, because all that work isn't going unnoticed and it's really affecting people's lives in a positive way. And I really appreciate that. You know, this is what community is all about. You know, the more we work together as a community, the more we can make the world just that much better of a place to be and live in. So thank you again to the Block Gives Back and all those lovely people who participated. We all love it and we love you guys. Now on to the show. Now, since Xmas, Christmas, whatever holiday is coming up this week, you know, it's the holiday season. I just want to share a nice heartwarming story that I thought was worth highlighting. If you've been listening to the podcast, you know, I always harp on how much change we need when it comes to the lower income neighborhoods and how it's a deeply rooted problem that needs to be addressed before we get everyone on track. It's not something simple that can be solved overnight, obviously. But with the holiday season right around the corner, these areas specifically and households don't get as much as their, well, better off counterparts, especially the neighborhoods, you know. That's not to say the kids don't get gifts and families don't come together and have a good time, but if we're being honest, we know that those lower income families start to struggle a little more during the holiday season, simply because who doesn't want to spoil their little ones or their family members? And on top of, you know, all the stores and businesses being closed for the holidays, some people who work for those types of companies or businesses don't always get holiday pay because they're not full-time employees, or they go without pay because if you don't work, you don't get paid. You know, it's simple to understand. This is also why I continue to harp on the subject of having enough to give back. If you make more than enough money to live and be happy and comfortable, and a part of me feels that you have a responsibility to those who aren't as fortunate, not because they're lazy or because they don't want to make something of themselves, but because some people, they simply can't. You know, if you have more than enough, why not make yourself and others feel good by giving back? Kind of what the Block Gives Back does. You don't have to have a lot of money, but those who do, I mean, I feel like you have a responsibility. Which kind of brings me back to the story for today. It's about a man named Adam Armstrong. And Adam Armstrong grew up in a poor, mostly government subsidized apartment complex in Virginia when he was younger. As with many youths that grow up in a lower income environment, he was sent to jail for 3 months for possession of marijuana when he was 18. And don't even get me started on the ridiculous of that, but it might have kind of been a blessing in disguise, because in this instance, prison did what it's supposed to do. You know, supposedly prison's supposed to rehabilitate, and in a sense, it's supposed to deter you from coming back, kind of scaring you straight. They had a whole show about it. But by the time he was released, he thought about how he could turn his life around. And Adam ended up moving to Baltimore, where he started working a plethora of jobs, a string of jobs, different jobs here and there, until he got into the mortgaging business. As he became more and more financially stable, he had that feeling that I was explaining before. He wanted to give back to those living in the lower income areas, because, I mean, that's where he came from, you know. He started donating a ton of toys to local charities every holiday season, kind of what we do every now and then. Well, people who have more, you know. But this month, Adam Armstrong, who is now a 35-year-old philanthropist, drove to his former neighborhood with a 26-foot moving truck filled with approximately 1,327 toys to give away to all the kids in the complex that he grew up in. Pretty amazing. You can say Christmas came early for these kids in that complex. Wow, he handed out more than $12,000 worth of toys. That's right, over $12,000 worth of toys. So easy to say he wasn't going there and handing out, you know, cheap toys like stuffed animals or things that you get from the dollar store. I know everybody has like a Dollar Tree or something around them that they see those cheapy dollar store toys that don't look like they belong in the dollar store, but they do because they're not made very well. But anyway, even then, I'm sure some of the kids would have still been appreciative, even if they were dollar store toys. But instead, he gave out things like actual bikes, bicycle bikes, and remote control cars, and like real Barbie dolls, not them fake knockoffs. He reportedly didn't miss any kid. Every kid in the complex got something nice. And the kids were extremely grateful, and especially because some of them they don't have anything. And to be able to give them all a small toy or a big toy in their lives and some happiness was all Adam needed. You know, I say this over and over again. It pays to be selfless. You know, can you imagine just that feeling of being Santa Claus in a sense to a bunch of kids who probably never been a part of something like this, like a huge giveaway for a bunch of kids that live in a low income housing complex. This act of kindness is everything I like to highlight. Someone who grew up in poverty, made it out to be successful, and didn't just forget about the place or the people that he grew up with. He made something of himself, and when he got to the position where he was financially stable, he went right back to the place he came from because he understood the struggle and how important it is to have someone who you can look up to and be an example of, or being an example for, you know, what is possible, you know, even if he did it subconsciously. An act like this it's not something that the kids are going to forget, that's for sure. And maybe he gave those kids a gift that you can't buy subconsciously once again. And that's something to look for and work or strive for. Kind of like an idol, someone you can look up to and be inspired to maybe one day do the same for your community when you get older. Maybe it'll lie with them and make them realize certain things that they didn't know was possible. This is what I call a perfect example of paying it forward. And that's exactly what Adam Armstrong did. If we could get everybody on board with giving back to their communities, or it goes without saying that we'd have a better world in our hands. Or, you know, one act of kindness can change the world. I know there's a lot of things out there that happen, like world records, like Usain Bolt, fastest man alive, right? Before that, those records that he broke were supposedly impossible. Nobody could do them. The first time somebody ever, I don't have the names on hand, but it happens all the time in the news or in record books or breaking stuff like that. When you have somebody or something that's supposedly impossible or has never happened before, one person does it, what happens? You have a ton of people following that one person because they see that it's possible and those things are happening. I mean, and hopefully what this guy did is exactly that. He made it out the hood in a sense, you know, that old fashioned story that story that's always being told, you know, you make it out the hood and you give back from what is it, rags to riches, kind of thing like that. So I really enjoyed this story. And as far as listener news go, this one comes from Amanda Kim. She is a friend and a listener of the podcast, or follower on the page. And she shared with us a story that I remembered reading maybe a couple years ago. And this story is about a man named Armarildo Silva. He's a Brazilian artist that noticed a few years ago that there were rows of discarded used tires littering the streets of his neighborhood in Brazil. Wanting to clean up his streets and make a change, he came up with a plan to recycle tires by turning them into products that people would hold on to. You're probably wondering what could he turn a tire into that people would hold on to? He would go on to take these old used tires, he would clean them up and turn them into animal beds for pets. He'd collect the tires, he'd clean them up, cut all the unneeded material out, add a coat of water-based paint, and a soft, comfortable mattress in the middle for whatever fur baby you might have. He started the business and called it Caominhas Pets Oficial. I don't speak Portuguese, but I'm pretty sure that's Portuguese because he's in Brazil. And in his first 2 years, he sold over 500 of these little tire beds. So not only is he getting these wasted eyesores of tires off the streets, he's also supplying a durable and comfortable pet bed for numerous animals. If you have a dog or a cat or any type of pet that is in the house, you know, whatever they sleep on or their designated areas, they end up ruining the toys, chewing through it. I mean, not a lot of things that you buy in the stores are very durable. So I really love this thing because they're tires. Tires are super durable, and dogs, I'm sure there's some dogs that could chew through them, but good luck. You know, it'll last pretty good, I think. And this is a great story because he's cleaning up the environment, something I love to always talk about, and he's using eco-friendly materials to do so. So use tires that are really hard to recycle for some reason. I don't know the reason behind them, but he's got water-based paint, which is friendly to the environment. And he's recycling. He's hooking up some pets for some comfortable beds. So if you want to check these out, these cool little beds, you can check out his Instagram. I'll put the link or his Instagram name in the show notes, so you can go and copy that and check it out. It's actually pretty cool. So with that being said, thanks again to Amanda Kim for sharing this story. I really like the story and I appreciate it. And if you'd like to share a feel-good story or positive story or contribute to the podcast in any way, be sure to send us a message and check us out on Facebook and Instagram at Limelight Highlight. You can find us on Twitter as well. Our Twitter handle is at LLHighlight. And if you want to send us a good old-fashioned email, you can do so at limelighthhighlight@gmail.com. If you enjoyed this podcast and want to help support, be sure to share this with a friend or family. Family members, friends, anybody you usually talk to who likes to listen to podcasts. While you're there, leave a rating and a review on whatever platform you might be listening on. And if you haven't done so, be sure to follow the pages and subscribe to the podcast for any new episodes that get released. I hope you all have a wonderful and happy holiday. And as always, be humble, be helpful, pay it forward, be the best you. Until next time, happy holidays and be safe out there. Hope everybody has a great Christmas. Peace.